Yay Networks.
Just before we hit record, Hannah said to me, all right, we're going to start off with your ointment and my makeup. And if that isn't the most Junkyard Mayhem.
Mm-hmm. We have 2 updates. One is about ointment, which is disgusting.
These are barely updates.
And one is about my eye makeup.
Let's begin with your eye makeup.
Okay.
Fiasco.
So if you watched last week's podcast, I wonder if any of you noticed that I accidentally had only done half of my makeup. And then I'm pretty sure Shane interrupted me while I mascaraed one eye.
Wow, blaming it on me and you can't even remember yourself.
Well, I'm 100% sure it was you interrupting me. Something interrupted me, most likely you, and I never went back to mascara the other eye. And we went through the entire day. We filmed the podcast. We ran errands. We had a meeting. Yes, Shane, we did have a meeting. Multiple Zoom calls. I went out in public in real life to the grocery store.
And then at night,
when I was taking my makeup off, I was like, wait a second. There's only one eye to do.
And somehow, this is all my fault.
Because you didn't notice, Shane, that when I showed him, he was like, oh yeah, and started laughing.
I thought it was like, the best thing ever.
All day long, you looked at me and didn't notice that I only had one eye mascaraed.
Here is why I am not at fault.
Okay.
You are so much taller than me that
and your vision isn't good.
I typically can't see your eyes in a normal day. I get like chin down. That is what is in focus for me. I don't even really know what your nose looks like.
Okay.
If I'm being honest.
Well, today I have both eyes done, if anyone has noticed.
They look beautiful.
Thank you.
You should start. This would be great for Junkyard Mayhem. Each week,
leave something off.
The audience needs to pick out the one thing that's like wrong about Hannah.
Wow.
Do you
that's
notice
nice.
what it is today?
Thanks a lot, Shane. That'll lead to some good comments for me to read.
I'm going to give you a hint. What's in her ear?
Oh, Shane. Okay. Do you want to move on to your update?
Yeah, because it's really exciting and positive and maybe groundbreaking news. My hands are no longer sweating.
Well,
and I am no longer prescribing myself my medicinal sweat ointment.
Your hand antiperspirant?
I'm off the ointment, everyone.
Yeah, but looking at your hand glistening in the light, you are sweating right now.
No, but be honest. Tell them truthfully.
Okay. Shane, as you know, was on his medicinal sweat
perspiration ointment applied twice a day,
which
vigorously rubbed into the palms by my caregiver.
Which was a tricky routine for us to get down, that I had to do this hand washing ointment application twice a day.
There was nothing tricky about it.
We kept forgetting because that's a weird thing to all of a sudden have to do twice a day.
Yeah, it's a brand new routine, and we didn't do a very good job of keeping up with it.
No. So in Minnesota, but it was an emergency. So we did in Minnesota because if I missed an ointment application, Shane would sweat through his pants. Like his hands would rest on his pants and sweat through them onto his thighs. Okay? It was bad.
Let me tell you the day that we knew that we needed to take action. I had my hand up near my mouth and a drip of sweat fell from my pinky finger onto my plate of food. That is when you know that you've crossed the line from casual medical
to emergency
problem to I need to seek treatment.
So we did the treatment, and then when we were driving down from Minnesota to LA, we didn't bring a bowl with us. It was like that some of the Airbnbs didn't have bowls that were good for hand washing.
I use a bowl to wash my hands because I can't reach the sink.
Yeah, so it was even trickier. But we realized after a couple weeks of being here that we had not even unpacked the hand ointment. We'd forgotten about it, and Shane's hands were not sweating.
Generally, day to day, out here in LA, my hands just don't sweat.
Must be the drier air or something.
It's one of two things. Something environmental, a difference in temperature or humidity, air pressure.
Okay. You're very sensitive to the air pressure, I guess.
Cloud cover. Or the medicine built up in my system.
No.
And this is like the lasting
No.
effects of it.
It specifically says that it doesn't last. And we saw that. If we missed even one application in Minnesota, it was a bad day.
Or I've just coincidentally reached my dry era in life.
No, you didn't. We're going to go back to Minnesota and be like, oh, where's the ointment?
Now, kind of the downside about this great news is that I'm now sweating in other areas.
No, that's not funny. People are going to be like, oh, what?
Hannah, will you feel the underside of my chin, please? Because it feels a bit soupy.
Oh, okay, we're going to move on now. Those were our updates about Shane's sweaty hands and my eye makeup.
We kind of buried the exciting part of today's episode.
Yeah, what the heck?
We have a special guest
Yeah, we do.
joining us here. We have two special guests. One of them will be on the podcast.
Yeah.
My mom and dad are here in LA.
Yay.
Yay. So my dad is going to join us in a minute to tell some stories with me. And then at the end, Hannah and my dad are going to share a special moment that they experienced together.
Our special memory.
Oh, it's a very cute story. Well, and like kind of scary.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that in a minute.
We can try to include you in that, but we only have 2 microphones, so that's why we're swapping out if anyone is wondering.
I am not. I'm taking my segment off.
Okay.
I will be relaxing.
Okay.
Anyway, we're going to take a quick break, and then my dad will be here to tell some stories.
Oh boy. Bye, everyone. I'll be back later.
See ya, Hannah.
Shane, you know we get too much takeout.
Oh, yes. Definitely.
Almost every dinner.
It's too much.
It's too much. We knew we needed to cut back on takeout, so this year, Every Plate has been an amazing option for us to save money while still having delicious meals.
Every Plate meals are 58% cheaper than your average fast casual meal. That is more bang for your bite
Oh, good one, Shane.
with America's best value meal kit.
Every Plate has tons of variety so you never get bored. They have 25 tasty and affordable recipes to choose from each week, so it's always easy to find something that everyone will love.
I have loved all of the meals that we've received, and I just have to say, there is something so luxurious and amazing about just having delicious food arrive at our doorstep and not have to slog our way to the grocery store for food.
I know.
It's a brilliant, brilliant idea.
It's not just meals because they have up to 22 sides, snacks, desserts, my personal favorite, and more.
I just had breakfast, and I'm already getting hungry again.
Every Plate recipes include only the highest quality ingredients like sustainably sourced seafood so you can feel good about where your food came from.
And the thing that sets Every Plate apart from other meal kit services is their much lower price point. Hannah and I made a date night out of cooking one of the Every Plate pasta dishes that we ordered.
It was so good.
It was so good.
Get started with Every Plate for just $1.49 per meal by going to everyplate.com/podcast and entering code Junkyard149. Again, get started with Every Plate for just $1.49 per meal by going to everyplate.com/podcast and entering code Junkyard149.
That is up to a $110 value. Thank you, everyone. Welcome back. We are joined now, I am joined now, by none other than my own father. And it is very important to know that when I say my father, I mean the actor hired by Hannah and I to play the role of Shane's father in the YouTube drama Squirmy and Grubs that we are creating to lie to all of you. John Bertel, welcome.
Thanks, Shane. I'm proof positive that you didn't simply fall out of the sky into Hannah's arms. That's why I'm here.
Are you saying I'm an angel? That kind of sounds like I'm an angel.
No, that's not what I'm saying at all.
So you're out in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
How does it feel?
Cali, very, very crazy. The weather's beautiful today. It wasn't so much yesterday, but very cool place so far. You guys got awesome digs here, and can't wait to see more of the area this afternoon.
Yeah. This is your first podcast. Is that correct?
Yeah, pretty sure.
Imagine if you were like, Shane, I've done thousands of podcasts.
Yeah. Yeah, this is my 1001st podcast.
But today we're going to be sharing some like funny memories. Well, sort of funny, sort of terrifying from my dad's perspective. Just to take a little walk down memory lane. You know, that's what we do when we visit with family. We talk about all the memories that we have, and we think it would be fun for all of you to hear some of my dad's perspective. So, Dad, I think we should begin with the time I almost died.
Well, there were a couple of those. We should call this a wheel down memory lane just to kind of keep it, on the up and up.
There we go.
Got the chop. Well, let's see. You were new to wheelchairing. You were in your first powered wheelchair. You were about 3 years old.
I was only 3 when this happened.
Yeah, you
in
were.
My memory, I was like 8.
Yeah, well, no, you were 3, and we were terrified that you were going to get yourself in trouble with this 400-pound electric monster.
Yeah, I always wonder about that. Like, giving a fully motorized hunk of metal to a 2-year-old doesn't feel like the safest idea, as this story will indicate.
We didn't believe that your handlers, the folks at VIA who taught you how to drive,
Right.
Would start you off on something that was actually
A weapon.
a weapon when you were 2 years old. But anyway, you were out patrolling the alley back behind our house, and
Keeping the house safe.
keeping the house safe. You and your brother and your neighbors, Pat and Pat was later.
Yeah, it would've been
So this
Ben.
would have been Ben and Harry, and I was sharpening a chainsaw. I had a landscaping business back then, and
As one does.
I was sharpening a chainsaw, and you were experimenting with the limitations of your chair, and you attempted to drive up a very steep ramp on the opposite side of the alley. And instead of going backwards down the ramp when you couldn't go any further, you just turned off the side of the ramp. And in our infinite wisdom, we did not have your straps, your shoulder straps on that morning.
Oh.
And you were tossed out of the chair.
You
And
saw this happen?
it was like everybody says, it happened in slow motion. And I watched, and it was like, oh, no. It happens.
That was really good slow motion, by the way.
It happened slowly, but at a split second, and I sprinted away from what I was doing to get to you in a vain attempt to try to keep you from hitting the ground.
Yeah, as if you would like dive, and it's one of those movies where your hand like slips under my head right before I hit.
Yeah, that
Nope,
didn't
that
happen
didn't
here.
happen. I was launched.
You were launched, and I think by the insane thing was the chair followed you almost maybe 50% of the way over, and then miraculously fell backwards.
Yeah, that didn't trust me.
Yeah, it would have killed you.
Oh,
It would have certainly killed you, and that's no lie. And I'm thinking about that as you're lying on the ground, crumpled in a mass.
And from my point of view, I'm laying on the ground. The friends, the neighbor boys run over, and they're like, "Do you need help?" I was like, "Yep, I think I need help. This is not where I want to be right now."
Yep.
And then I see you sprinting through the backyard, jumping over a fence, and running after me in a panic.
Yes, and the boys ran away actually when I got there.
They were like, "Shit,
Yeah,
we killed him."
and I didn't know. My first thought was I didn't really know how to pick you up because I didn't know if you had broken something.
Right.
So I did what any parent would do and picked you up anyway. And you had a pretty good knot on your forehead.
Yeah, big bump.
Yeah.
And then later that night, I was on the toilet.
Yes. And this is where I lost all parenting 101 opportunities, or for Parent of the Year, I've lost at that point. Typically back then, we would set you down on the john,
Right.
and you would do your business, and we would sit nearby.
Mm-hmm.
And as I put you down on the john and went to go to my predestined place, you lost your balance and fell off the toilet and hit your head a second time.
In a slightly different spot.
Yes, slightly different spot.
And now I'll let you take the punchline, sharing my punchline.
Yes. So I'm bawling by this point because I realized how terrible of a parent I was and how hurt you were.
It just keeps getting hurt.
Yeah. And I seem to be the fault, but
No, I take the blame. I remember always insisting that I didn't need my strap on the toilet.
yes.
And turns out I did.
Yeah.
So listen to your parents.
Well, going back quickly to the wheelchair incident in the alley, had you had your straps on, you would not be here to have your
True.
podcast
Yeah,
or
you're
to
right.
tell his story.
Share
So
when it came over. So
yeah,
actually the moral is don't wear your straps.
yeah, yeah.
Health and safety advice.
There is
from
no
John
moral.
Bertel. So hey, that night you're bawling.
I'm bawling.
I'm
You're bawling,
I'm
and
now in bed.
you're laying on the bed, and we're icing your forehead for the second time, looking for a concussion protocol number 2. And then you look up at me through tears in your eyes, and you said to me, "It's a good thing, Dad, I didn't go down 3 times because it would be tic-tac-toe 3 in a row." And
But
I lost it right then and there.
even as a 3-year-old, my
Your comedy chops
and
were
my ingenuity is
just on.
amazing.
Yeah.
Almost like foreshadowing for
Oh, today.
life to come. Yeah.
Yeah, truly.
So that was that's a very Junkyard Mayhem type story. You know, you've got chainsaws, which is about as Junkyard as it gets.
Yeah, for sure.
You've got injury.
Yeah.
You've got
Bloodshed.
crying fathers.
Yeah. You have it all. Twice in one day.
Can we share the story of the turkey? I
The
know
turkey
that-
call.
That's a vague entry, but I know you
Turkey
know
call.
what I mean.
This also happened around about the same time.
Uh-huh.
Again, I had a landscaping business, and back then we collected lawn clippings. At least I did, and a few other landscapers in the area collected lawn clippings.
Just as a hobby.
Yeah, and we would intersperse them, disperse them throughout the county somewhere. I had a place to dump them, and they were out. It was out in the middle of nowhere, and it would
We
take
called it the dump.
the grass dump.
Every day, Dad would come home from the lawns that he'd been doing that day, and then unload some stuff at the house, like your equipment, and then you'd have to drive all the debris to the dump.
Yep.
And I like to go along.
Yep. So you were about three-ish years old, and put the car seat in the truck, and then you. And we drive out to the dump, and typically, since it was a dumping activity, it was done after dark because I couldn't make any more money cutting grass after that. So it was kind of a downtime,
Right.
kind of stuffy thing that needed to happen. So we went out to the dump, which is about a half an hour away from the house.
Out in the middle of like nowhere area, just forests all around.
Yep.
And you would put me in my car seat up on the roof of the truck so that I could watch you pitchfork the stuff out of your
Yep.
back.
You were petrified of being left in the truck when it was dark. It was pitch black out in the middle of the woods. And
That's a very reasonable thing to be
you
afraid of.
didn't really want to have anything to do with looking through the front of the truck window in the event something other than
No,
a
anything.
small
If
animal.
anything came out, I would be terrified. So I'm on top of the truck,
Yep.
and my dad says to me, there are turkeys that live out in these woods.
Hmm. And almost on cue, we heard a gobble in the background. Gobble, 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 gobble.
And so my dad says to me, oh my gosh, like, there they are. Why don't you try to call them, Shane? Like, make your turkey call. Okay?
And I thought Shane would go, gobble, 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 gobble. But in his infinite wisdom, he started going, turkey, here, turkey. And every time he said that, the turkey would gobble. Gobble, 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 gobble.
It was like it was interacting with me.
Yes.
I had learned the turkey language.
Yes.
And lo and behold, they begin to emerge from the woods and they're coming towards us.
around the truck.
My turkey call was a stunning success.
It certainly was.
All those hunters, and
That spent
turkey,
thousands of dollars on turkey calls or made them themselves.
you've been duped.
Yes, you have.
All you have to do is speak
Just
respectfully.
yell turkey,
Turkey,
nicely. Yep.
Mr. Turkey.
Yep. And here they come. That was a beautiful evening.
That was funny.
Yep.
Let's go a little bit later in life. Can you share your memory of the treacherous Halloween parade from hell?
The Halloween parade. So you were slightly older by that point.
I was in elementary school.
Yeah,
so.
7 or 8 years old, perhaps. And in keeping with the lawn business theme, this made me very proud. You actually went to the parade as a lawn service.
That's
Remember?
true.
We
You know what? I did not realize that every story here today had a theme.
had lawn service
theme.
things related to it. Sure. And you had a wagon on the back of your wheelchair with a lawnmower and a plastic string trimmer.
Yeah.
And
a real chainsaw.
yeah, the one I sharpened. No, that wasn't on there. But
And it was raining, if I
was
remember
pouring.
correctly.
It was
which is
pouring.
a lovely atmosphere for a 2-mile Halloween parade through the city of Bethlehem.
and the city put us in the first group to be lined up, which meant we were the last group in the parade. So we
Yes.
watched the entire parade go by before
In the pouring rain.
we ended up getting actually out onto Broad Street. And you and I were basically the last thing in the parade.
We were the grand finale.
Yeah.
Let's put the wheelchair at the very
Yeah.
back. Really wow them.
The kid with the lawn chair
They
or
did.
the lawn service / wheelchair.
The kid with the wagon strapped to the back of his chair. That's what's going to set off the parade.
Truly. And behind us were the street cleaners
Yeah.
cleaning up the mess.
Giant street sweeper.
So that's important. So we're going down, and I'm walking next to you, and suddenly you look like an airplane pilot that's lost control of his plane, and your joystick starts to become it gets very vague. And you started bumping into me, and I went
you were
down
like,
and
"What are
I
you
looked.
doing?"
What are you doing? Keep driving straight.
And I
he-
just began veering towards the crowds on the side of the road. And my dad was like, Shane, stop. What are you doing?
and then your right wheel passed us. Your right driving wheel passed us, and
He's just rolling down the road.
yes, towards the curb.
And that's when it all clicked in your brain.
Yeah, and that's when it all clicked. It's your wheelchair is falling apart. Now, keep in mind, the street cleaners are behind us, and there were very important parts that were holding your wheel or had been holding your wheel that were now on the road.
Now sprinkled throughout
That were
the
sprinkled
road.
all over the road, and we needed to make sure that we gathered those parts so that we could somehow get your wheel back on the chair.
I don't have much memory of that because I was crashed into the curb
You were.
and stuck. And so I imagine behind me, you were running around like a chicken, picking up
That's
all the little pieces.
pretty accurate.
Before the street sweeper gobbled
Yes.
you and the pieces
And
up.
they had no interest in me picking up parts. They were interested in finishing the parade so they could get out of the rain also. And we landed in front of several people that were still watching the parade. And we pull up to the side of the parade, and I realized we were 15 blocks from the car.
So far,
Yeah.
if I remember correctly, though, you like jerry-rigged a solution with rope or
Yeah.
something.
Well, in my desperation, I just said, anybody have a section of rope? And some woman pulled out
Rope.
a piece of rope exactly the length that we needed out of her purse.
It was miraculous.
It was insane. And
You like tied my wheel on.
I tied your wheel onto the chair using the parts that I rescued from the street
Yeah.
and put your wheelchair back together enough so that we could get you home
Yeah.
and get the proper nuts, bolts, and screws that we needed.
Yeah.
And that particular thing has never happened since. That was a unique adventure with that particular chair.
And it only, I mean, of course, it turned in possibly the worst scenario for that to happen.
Of course. Well, that's how you learn, man.
But the woman that had the rope,
Yeah.
slaves.
Whoever you are,
Thank you. You're
you rock.
responsible for me not being eaten alive by the street sweeper. Well, this has been fun, Dad. Are you
It has
having
been.
fun?
I'm having a blast.
These have been kind of silly, funny stories, but I'm going to dip out now, and Hannah's going to come back for you two to share a very special moment that you had together.
Oh, boy.
So-
I can't wait.
Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being my father.
The real father, you mean?
The real father.
The one that's not being paid to
The
be here.
actual real father. Thank you. I will be right. I'm leaving. I may never see you again. But Hannah will be here. We'll be right back. Bye.
We're back. I'm here with not quite Shane, kind of similar. The closest I can get.
Sort of, kind of.
Yeah, almost Shane in the right spot. We are going to talk about the time. What would you say? Like the time we bonded?
Yes. the time that we bonded,
Yeah.
it was actually sort of a frantic, sort of dangerous time, really.
I know. I feel like that's the best time that people bond is like in a bad experience.
Yes. So Shane was sick.
Yes.
This was back in the January of.
It was 2018.
Okay,
I was
you're-
thinking about it because we were talked about this last night.
You have the dates down. I just know that it was
5 years ago.
I just know that it was January
Yeah.
because you were headed back to school.
Yes,
And
I
you
was.
had just visited the house. Mm-hmm. And Shane was not feeling well, and he was beginning to come down with some type of respiratory infection.
He was so sick.
Yes.
That was the sickest that I've ever seen him. I think that was the last time he was sick. Was that time to that degree?
that we saw.
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah.
Perhaps
I mean,
you've seen
no.
others since then.
Nothing
but,
like that. It was bad. Shane was basically in bed all the time. Again, I was back. I had swimming, so I was at like swim practice and swim meets, and he was just like barely there.
Yes, we were doing breathing treatments around the clock, and I only have a vague memory of your visit. It was during Christmas. You were
Yeah.
there for Christmas, I believe.
I think so, like right before, maybe right after. I had
Yeah.
like a swim team training trip, and I think I came right after that.
Yeah. And we celebrated Christmas and New Year's, and then you, like every visit before then, traveled back
Yep.
you guys were just heartbroken about being
Yeah.
apart, and that was something that we always lamented when you left.
Yeah.
And Shane was really bad, and I know that you were spending time FaceTiming and being in contact with Shane after you got home. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't long after you got home that you called me, which was something that was unusual.
Yeah.
Probably it was the first time
Probably.
that had ever happened. That you had called me and you said, you asked for my permission
Yeah.
to come back. And I said to you, you would never need my permission to come, but you needed to be in school.
Yeah.
And that was the dad me coming out. And
I think I was like, I know, but like, can I come anyway?
yes, that was pretty much, that's too bad, Dad.
Yeah.
I'm coming.
So, is it okay? Like, seriously, I
Yeah.
really want to come. Is it okay?
And like, there was no stopping you. I could hear could hear it in your voice that
Yeah.
there wasn't anything that I was going to say, but I needed to give it a shot.
Yeah. That was responsible of you
Sure.
to be like, you probably shouldn't.
Yeah, yes,
And I was
and
like,
you just
well.
left here, and your parents probably want you in school.
Yep.
And I had a little guilt about your folks. It's like, why didn't he just stop her from coming? But your relationship by that point was far beyond anything I was going to say. So you made arrangements to come back to Bethlehem.
Yeah. I think when I called you, I already had my flight like almost booked. I was like, I have to push one more button. Like,
You were coming anyway.
yeah, I really would like to press book.
Yes.
And I remember I had a flight. I had gotten it straight to the airport right near you guys. It was like 15 minutes away, so that, you didn't have to drive an hour and a half to pick me up. So I get on this plane, and I remember I left a swim meet halfway through. I went up to my coach and I was like, I'm leaving. I think I said my boyfriend's in the hospital, which was close enough.
He probably should have
You
been.
should have been in the hospital.
Yes.
So I remember I left the swim meet and I got on this plane, and again, it was January, and I think there was like some sort of storm. I know I had a layover in North Carolina. It was like some weird layover.
Charlotte
Charlotte.
or Detroit or something.
I think it was Charlotte. It was
Yes.
somewhere weird where I
Yeah.
was like, why am I going all the way out of the way?
Yeah.
So I'm on this plane and we're sitting. And then all of a sudden they're like, this flight is going to be delayed by like an hour or two. And I was going to miss my layover. And I got a text on my phone from the airline that was like, you are now scheduled to miss your layover. You've been rescheduled for a flight tomorrow out of North Carolina. And I was like, I am not going to North Carolina alone to stay overnight in this airport. I didn't even know, at that point I had no idea what I was going to do,
So you did what every person in love would do, and you got off the plane even though they told you not to get off the plane.
They were like, no one is getting off this plane. And I
I
called
am.
the flight attendant. I was like, you don't understand. Like,
I'm getting off the plane.
I need to get off this plane. And the only reason they let me off is that I didn't check any luggage. Because if my stuff had still been on board, it would be like a safety issue for me to put a bag on and
Sure.
then get off the
Yeah.
plane. But because I hadn't checked anything, they were like, okay. And they opened the plane door for me to get off. Pretty nice.
I
of
would
them.
have. I would have, I believe.
Yeah, I was like, please let me off.
And then you got a flight to Philly.
The only flight that night was to Philly, and it was getting in at like midnight.
Yep.
So I remember I think I called you again, and I was like, uh-oh.
And again, knowing you by that point, we'd known you a couple years.
Yeah.
And I had no qualms about coming to get you in Philadelphia since you had already gone through all this trouble.
Yeah, I was
to-
like, I just got
to
off my
get here.
plane.
And I know that Shane was really, really looking forward to seeing you again.
Yeah.
So you got into Philadelphia, and I drove to Philly at midnight to
Yep.
come pick you up. And we had some time alone together.
Yes, we did. We had our drive back from Philly at midnight
Mm-hmm. Yep.
to chat.
And we had not, up to this point, had really much chance for that. I know that in our family atmosphere, you were very genuine and open, but very quiet. And we were still learning about you.
Yeah.
And Shane was already had. He was determined and knew everything that he needed to know about you. And so that meant a lot to us.
Yeah.
And so we got to talking, and I wanted to know if it was real. I really did. And we had a conversation, and you started talking about the cough later, all these different things that he used to improve his breathing health. And we talked some more, and the love in you clearly came out that evening, and just your desire to see that he got better became that was my checkpoint, I believe, where I said, this woman is the one. And although I had my thoughts and previous to that it was pretty much of a slam dunk before then, but that was the kicker.
Yeah.
That evening, that ride home. And Shane got better.
Yeah, he did. Like 2 days later.
You got back to
It
school,
was good to fly home.
and everything worked out.
Yep.
And here we are in sunny
I
California.
know, 5 years later.
Son of a gun.
Look at that.
Yep. So glad that
I
you're part of the
know.
family now.
I am too. All right, so that was our bonding story.
Yep.
Now everybody knows it.
Yep. The real story from the paid dad
From the
of
paid-
Squirmy and Grubs.
Yeah, the paid actor. This is
Yeah.
a great story that
See.
we dreamed up.
They gave me the shirt to be on the show.
I also have the sweatshirt on.
Okay,
so Now it
cool.
looks even more like.
Yeah, like this was predetermined and
Yep.
paid for. Yeah. So
All right.
yeah, couldn't be happier for you guys.
Thank you for being on the podcast today. This was fun.
This was very cool.
Bye, everyone. Do you want to do a Junkyard Mayhem sign off? Shane usually says like,
something
it's
stupid.
a junkyard out there.
It's a junkyard out there.
Yeah.
Go swimming.
Wow, that was better than what Shane would have done.